Hi, I'm Callie. Welcome to Kapowski Reads and Happy New Year. Today I'm going to be rambling on about my 2023 reading goals. I set a whole lot of goals in 2022 and they were completely unachievable. I set far too many specific goals. So this year I am going to be still setting lots of goals, but being slightly less specific. And ultimately, whether I achieve them or not, that's okay. My main goal revolves around reading the books I own. I feel like this is probably the goal for every single person who is into reading books. It's a shared goal, and some of us will get there and a lot of us will not. So I am hoping to make my way through the books that I own. And as of the 1st of January 2023, I owned 147 books on my TBR, and that is a mixture of physical books, ebooks and audiobooks. 2 of those don't take up that much space. The physical books do though. My goal is to get my TBR that I already own down to under 100 books, and I think that that's achievable. I do have some pre-orders already made, but not a lot. Like 5, 4. I can't remember. I have a few, but they're books that I'm sure I'll get through. So I'm fine with that. But I still think that less than 100 is completely achievable for me. I am also going to be reading my A to Z of books. That's not a thing. Basically, reading a book that covers every letter of the alphabet. So a book beginning with A, a book beginning with B, and so on and so forth. Last year, where I went wrong was that I specified the books that I was going to be reading. I'm not doing that this year. I'm just having the letters existing and seeing if whatever I read fits. I would also love to get through 5 series. I think that that is an achievable goal. I did my series success of 2022 as part of Vlogmas. I will pop a link in the description for anybody who is interested in finding out how I got on in 2022. Spoiler, not as well as I had hoped. And in 2022, I had set myself specific series that I wanted to finish, and they were 5 specific series. I would also like to complete 5 series this year, but I'm not going to choose the ones that they are. I'm just gonna see where the year takes me, and maybe I'll get through 5 series. I hope I do. And I'm still going to be participating in Read Christie because I love reading Agatha Christie books. Why would I not do a challenge that involves reading an Agatha Christie book every month? It seems like something I would love, and it is something I love. So I'm still going to be doing that. And my main challenge for 2023 is that I have chosen 23 books that I plan to read this year. My first 8 books were my Waterstones haul. My Waterstones half price haul, and I'm not going to bore you with me talking about those books all over again. I will just quickly show them. And they are The Bookseller of Inverness by S.G. McLean, The Ministry of Unladylike Behaviour by Robin Stevens, Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne, Wolfsong by T.J. Clune, Femina by Janina Ramirez, She and Her Cat by Makoto Shinkai, Ithaca by Claire North, and The Book Eaters by Sunya Dean. And in keeping with those books, some more of my 23 attendees are other books that I got recently. So books that I got for Christmas. And they are Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which is a fantasy book about a young woman who discovers that she has some very special powers and abilities that could be used to overthrow those in charge. And I'm in. I love fantasy. Yeah, sounds good. I then have Dread Nation by Justine Ireland, which is a zombie novel, and that is not my usual thing. However, I had this recommended to me and was told that it's a really good book with strong female leads, which is what I want, and basically some butt kicking happens from the protagonists. So I'm keen to find out how I get on with a zombie novel. I then have The Honeys by Ryan LaSala, which is about Mars, whose sister passes away, and they then assume their sister's place at a prestigious school that they themselves had been excluded from, and find themselves sort of getting in with their sister's clique, who are beautiful yet terrifying, and Mars is pretty sure that they had something to do with their sister's death. I listened to a podcast that Ryan LaSala and Clarabelle Ortega do, which is about I think it's Bad Author Book Club, and they basically talk about books, and basically it's all just been about the Tyra Banks book, and it's a very funny podcast. I'm really not doing it any justice, but it makes me chuckle, and when Ryan mentioned the concept for The Honeys, I was like, I would like that, very much like that, so I got it for Christmas. I then have The Adventures of Maud West, Lady Detective by Susanna Stapleton, and this is a non-fiction book about Maud West, who was a detective in the early 1900s, and basically about her life, who she was, and the cases that she took on board. I saw this book a few places over the last year and was just like, I want it. So very excited to add this to my list. And the last of my new additions is The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile. And it is about a woman who is killed in a library, and it's kind of a locked room mystery, which is definitely the kind of thing I like to read. And one of the people in the library is actually a crime writer, so kind of almost Poirot's it and tries to sort of figure out who the guilty party is. So very excited for this one. I've then got a few more of my sort of more recent purchases. So clearly, I mean, what has happened is I don't have space to put these books on my TBR shelf, which is downstairs. These are the books that I've read, and they are a mess, and I need to tidy them, and I've not done that. I don't have the emotional energy for that right now. That's a problem for later. So the newer books made it to the list because they were on a pile, and I'm still very excited about them all. I've got The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I've been told by a few of my friends that I would love N.K. Jemisin. So I'm going in, and this book is it's got some mythology in it, and it's set in a version of New York, and there is magic, and there is a battle. I believe that there's gonna be a battle, and yeah, clearly I didn't pay too much attention to what the book is even about, other than seeing, ooh, fantasy, myths. Yep, I'm in. I've then got The Undiscovered Deaths of Grace McGill by C.S. Robertson. And it's Grace's job to clean up after people have been found dead and alone and just sort of left. And this is about what sort of secrets she unearths. Next is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. And this is about Eliza, who is a popular anonymous online creator of a webcomic. And then the biggest fan of her webcomic transfers to her school, and they sort of bond. And then people find out that Eliza is the creator of this webcomic, and things happen, feelings are felt. So this was highly recommended to me as well, and I do think that this has got some illustrations in it, so I'm really excited about that. Then there is The Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez, which is a sci-fi book in space with some cats. Need I say more? I will. The protagonist's sister has been kidnapped and held ransom, and so the protagonist now has to save the money and save her sister. Meanwhile, she's on a ship that is filled with some psychic cats, an engineer who's a little bit dreamy, and somebody who is not too happy that she is there. So I mean, in all honesty, I'm in it for space cats, so that's why I bought it. There were cats in space. My final 6 books are basically termed as books I really wanted to read in 2022 but just didn't. First up is Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan, which is a story about a man who finds out that he is unwell and reunites and sort of reminisces with his friends from his childhood and from better days. This has been made into an adaptation on BBC, which I've heard only good things about. I've also heard only good things about the book, so I would really like to read it and I'd like to watch the adaptation. I also really want to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I know why I didn't read this last year, and it's because it is over 1,000 pages and I already had my really big book of War and Peace and was just, I felt overwhelmed. I felt overwhelmed every time I looked at this book because it was just so big and I already had a really big book, but I don't have a really big book this year other than this. This is about basically a rivalry between magicians. I don't really like magicians in like current day, but I like magicians in like ye past. This book takes place in the early 1800s. What I don't like is TV magicians. That's it. I don't like TV magicians. No interest in that. But like magicians with like hats and things, yes, very much would like that. I also read Piranesi by Susanna Clarke last year and I loved it. So I know I like this author's writing based on one very short book. That's a bold claim, but I'm very confident that I'm gonna at least like this. The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid I had planned to read in November because it felt autumnal, and then I put it to the side because I was going to do a readathon of sort of myth and fairy tale inspired books, but I just didn't have the time, so this one got left behind and I don't want it to be left behind. I would like to read it. It's basically inspired by Little Red Riding Hood. There is magic, there is conflict, and I have heard that it is surprisingly dark for such a cute cover. There's The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris, and this book is about a young woman who is frustrated at being the only black woman in her office and is delighted when another black woman starts working with her. She then starts receiving some very hostile messages and it kind of feels as if she might be getting forced out, and she's got her suspicions about who these messages are coming from, and it does feel like these messages are a little bit more threatening than they may at first seem. The last two, to my great shame, were books that I bought in the last Waterstones half price hardback sale a year ago and a bit. I only bought 3 in 2021. One of them was War and Peace and I have read that, but the last 2 I've not read. I've got The Winter Garden by Alexandra Bell. It's absolutely stunning, and this is about a competition to create the most beautiful winter garden, and the winner of this competition will basically be able to trade the sort of core of their garden for a wish. So I'm very excited to see to find out a little bit more about this world and what is meant by sort of the most important part of the garden. And I really want to just start reading this now actually. I do have my TBR, but this isn't on it. Kind of want to read this now. I'm going to just add this to my January TBR maybe. And the last one is The Prince of the Skies by Antonio Iturbe. And this is inspired by true events of the author of The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I've pronounced that completely wrong. I apologise. And this is about Antoine, sure, we can be friends. I've read The Little Prince, and it's all about his life as a pilot. He very much wanted to be a pilot, span the globe, and I am fairly certain that this is going to also play into the inspiration behind The Little Prince, which is a story I absolutely loved as a child and was the first book I ever read in French because it's really small and I have only ever read really small books in French. So those are my 23 hopefuls, and I'm feeling good. It's January, so I'm feeling good about them. And I would love to know if you've got any reading goals for 2023. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!